Hey, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming here. It's a real pleasure. Today we're going to have a fireside chat with Mathew Knowles, who is truly a fascinating human being who's lived a very extraordinary life. This is a special presentation of the Master Summit on the Power of Music and Social Change. It's part of the course on the Power of Music and Social Change. And please take a look at this reel which will introduce our guest.
I'm excited about being here.
It is really a pleasure to have you here. And I'm not sure how much people know about you, but I want to start with a book that I found fascinating. And I'm going to tell you, I think every single one of you should get a copy of this book and read it. This book, The Emancipation of Slaves Through Music, is a really interesting account of the importance of music for the lives of African Americans through slavery, through the period of segregation and incarceration. It's a tremendous provides tremendous insight into the ways in which those musical traditions entered the mainstream of American culture, often being co-opted by the white folks who ran the mainstream. And it sort of shows us how today music has become a pathway for so many people towards recognition or financial success. It's really a fascinating book. I strongly encourage you to read it. And I'd like to ask you to say a little bit about the genesis of this book. Why did you decide to write this book?
Yeah, that was my second book that I wrote. I was teaching at Texas Southern University in Houston, and in the School of Communication, and I created a degree program called ERM, Entertainment Recording Management. And I was teaching 2 classes already that semester. And actually the dean called me as I was driving to class, and he says, "We've got this 3rd course and we don't have a professor." And so special topics so it didn't have a title. And so literally I said, "Sure, I'll teach it." And on the way, I don't know, I get these ideas sometimes, and I said, "Man, am I going to name this class?" And it was a very small class. Most of my classes average about 50 students. This was about 14. Actually, I gave them credit as writers. And so I decided to make it a research class. And I said, well, if it's going to be a research class, what can we research? And that's the idea came, slaves and music, and it just came to me, the emancipation of slaves through music. And that's really sometimes some of the best things in life just come accidentally, surprisingly, out of the sky sometimes. And then I went on to change the name, because I teach at Pepperdine, to African American ecstatic culture, from spirituals to hip hop. Because I wanted to understand what impact did the slaves have on music in America. And as I researched, I found more and more what I call the Jedi mind trick, that the slaves really played a major impact. It's what allowed them in that 3-month journey. So imagine you're on a slave ship, and there's room enough for probably in the galley 50 people, but there's maybe 300 people, and it's just all sorts of terrible scenario, and no bathrooms, none of that, people sick. And we think because they were slaves that they could communicate. Well, that's not true, because in Africa there was a lot of tribes, and they were very tribal, and so they couldn't communicate. So it was actually through music, banging on the hull of the ship, the clanging of the chains, the moaning and crying, especially of the women, that they began to communicate effectively. And then, as we talked earlier, they would go on top of the ship, because a slave had a dollar value of about $100,000. So that was a commodity that the slave owners didn't want to lose. So they forced the slaves to exercise because they wanted them to be healthy when they landed. So they would go on a weekly basis, several times a week, just to exercise. But that's also where a number of slaves committed suicide and jumped off the ship because they didn't want to live. It was terrible. Those 3 months were terrible, terrible, terrible. A lot of things happened. When a slave ship landed, you had a lot of babies that looked white. Those all sort of terrible conditions. Things that people don't want to talk about, the history of slavery, what happened here in America.
I mean, reading this book, I learned a lot. And I imagine that group of students learned a lot, and I imagine you learned a lot as well.
Oh, I learned tremendously.
And I'm wondering, what are a couple of the things that struck you as most interesting about what you learned in the process?
Well, several things. One was how spirituals, they call them sorrow songs. I always kind of put myself imagining a day of a life of a slave. You get up 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and you're beaten, raped all throughout the day. You had 0 rights, none whatsoever. And it was through music that got you through the day. This music and faith, and they were called sorrow songs. Because that is a very sorrow, pathetic way of life. And from sorrow songs became spirituals and gospel. And then there's a number of movements. The slaves would literally, the beat, they would literally work more efficiently, working to the beat. The slaves weren't allowed to have drums, and you have to understand America, what it looked like at that time. Music was just really blah, 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 organs, no drums, very, very, very blah. And so that's what got the slaves through the day. That's what made them more efficient. One way of looking at it. So that's one of the things that I got out of the book is that. And then the second thing, I learned a lot about country music, because obviously, people don't understand that I owned a country music from 2005. I sold it in 2012, Compadre Records. Any of you are real country fans, and you'll know names like Billy Joe Shaver. It's 7 record albums of his. So the fact that the banjo really came from Africa, instrument called a akonting, A-K-O-N-T-I-N-G, and was brought to America. And if you look at these early visuals, you'll see slaves playing, country music. The Grand Ole Opera, the Ford Bailey, black former slave, the first 3 performances of the Grand Ole Opry was a black man. And that's the Jedi mind trick. And that's one of the things that I wanted to write this book, because a lot of people didn't know Sister Rosetta Tharpe really is who should be credited for rock and roll. Sister Rosetta Tharpe from the Delta, Mississippi. And I wanted my audience to understand and know where this music comes from, and even how it influenced rap music today, and R&B music, and pop music. Yeah.
And I think that if you have a chance, go online, Sister Rosetta Tharpe. There's some videos of her on YouTube. It is pretty amazing.
It is.
I mean, she got a sound that would be pretty good right now.
She could play that guitar.
She could.
She could
really play that guitar. It was amazing to listen to her. So this book, Professor, this book is sort of I think, about a chapter of American history that's been neglected, that everybody should be familiar with. It also sort of provides a really good sense of the context in which many lives, including yours, unfold. And you pick that up in another book, which I got to say, I thoroughly enjoyed, Racism from the Eyes of a Child, which is about your roots. It's about your sort of resilience, your success, and also your experiences with racism, from sort of hiding from the KKK when you were very young, to dealing with this throughout your life. And I guess the motivation for this sort of sudden desire, or this deep desire, to understand where you came from.
Yeah, I think for me it was one day, I won't name the airline, but I was, you in the music industry, we start out in coach and we work our way up to first class with success. And at this point I was, flying in first class, and I was coming in and putting my bags up, and the flight attendant said, I'm sorry, coaches, you're supposed to put your bags in the back. And I was dressed like this, back then, first class, maybe suit and tie. But, you ever going to have an interview in the music industry dressed like this? Black, casual. So that really made me start thinking, man, so I have a chapter traveling while black, checking into a hotel and some of the nuances that happens when a black person checks in and the type of room they get. So that really made me think about my childhood growing up, and I'm 73 years old. You're supposed to go, oh my God, it's silence. So I'm 73 years old. I grew up in Gaston, Alabama. I know many of you know where that is in Alabama. I'm a jokester sometimes too. But I never went to a black school. Imagine that. 73 years old, George Wallace was the governor. Segregation now, segregation forever. His motto. And my mother went to high school with Coretta King, Martin Luther King's wife, in Marion, Alabama. And I desegregated elementary, went to actually an elementary Catholic school. Now imagine that, a Catholic school in Gaston, Alabama, St. Martin de Porres. And then junior high, Litchfield, and Gaston High. And by that time I had became a basketball star. And so I then went to University of Tennessee on a basketball scholarship. And never went to a black school. My junior year of college, I transferred to Fisk University in Nashville. And I wanted to share that experience of being the first, or one of the first. That experience of I've been beaten, I've been spit on. There's a thing the police had back then, the electric prodder that they use on cattle. I've been electric prodded. These are all the things that we did, and many before me and after did, so that all of you could be sitting here, because this is a very diverse audience, and I'm proud of it. A lot of people paid a price so that you could be sitting here today. Can we applaud the people that paid that price? So that's what instilled me to write Racism from the Eyes of a Child. And that first story, I remember every summer I would go down to my grandparents' house in Marion, Alabama. And this one night, my mother and grandmother were like oil and water. They just never got along. And this particular night, my brother was 9 years older than me. And my mom got into an argument with my grandmother and decided we were going to walk to the nearest relative, which was about a mile away. And here we are walking on a dirt road, pitch of the night, just the moon, stars. We then get to the main highway, and then in the distance, you could see these lights. And then the lights got closer, and you could begin to hear the car horns, and they got closer. And then finally, my mother told us, jump in the woods. We have to jump in the woods now. So me and my brother, my mom, I'm 6 years old, and I don't know what's going on. And this is my first experience with racism. And here I am now, and my mom is telling me, my brother, his name is Jesse, saying, Jesse, if anything happens, take your brother and go up under the barbed wire fence where the cattle was, and y'all just run as fast as you can. And then the cars were almost on the side of us. They were actually trucks. And my mom got on top of me and started praying, and I started crying because I didn't know what was going on. She was like, shh, you gotta be quiet, you gotta be quiet. And that was a Ku Klux Klan ride. That was my very first experience. You guys have no idea. See? Just verify it.
I mean, reading that book, it sort of made me realize that how little I know about my own roots. Yeah. My Scottish roots, my mother and orphan raised by relatives in Quebec, and I know that when I was growing up, the one thing I wanted to do was be the first in my family to leave rural Quebec and be the first to go to college. And so reading your book triggered a sense of I don't really know much about where these people came from. And you went to the effort of figuring that out and talking to a whole lot of people and putting the story together. And were there a couple of things that you learned about your own family and this background that stand out for you?
Great question. I come from, I'm third generation entrepreneur. My grandfather owned over 200 acres of land. He was everything to me. There was a paper mill company in this little small town, and he would lease out 100 acres of land. They would cut down all the trees because that's how you make paper, right? And then he would go behind them and farm. Literally, they paid him to do a task that he was going to have to do. And in there also, I have a chapter, they call him Mr. And it was the first time me and my cousin would go in the summer, I ever heard a white man call a black man Mr. And one Saturday, knocking on the door, these three white men knocked on the door and they said, "Is Mr. Hogue here?" My grandfather, last name Cherokee mixed Cherokee Indian, Dave Hogue, H-O-G-U-E. And that was just, we had never heard that before. And for those of you who have put together Sir Davis whiskey that Beyonce just put out, is a story named after my grandfather because he was also the regional moonshine distributor. And when you're a regional moonshine distributor, they call you Mr. But I come from an entrepreneurial family. My dad was a truck driver. He convinced the company he worked for to let him use the truck all the time, and he would tear down old houses. He was a produce driver, but he would, after work, tear out old houses and sell all of the wood and copper and aluminum, buy old cars, and sell all the parts. My mother, and by the way, he made $30 a week as a truck driver. He made about $400 to $500 a week as an entrepreneur. My mom was what we call a colored maid. She made $3 a day, $15 a week. And she convinced the white woman she worked for to give her all her hand-me-downs. And my mom would make, with her two best girlfriends, these beautiful quilts. And again, she made $15 a week, but she made $500 to $600 a week selling these beautiful quilts. So I come from that entrepreneurial background. My mom and dad always instilled in me I could do whatever I wanted to do in life. As long as I, put in the hard work, that I believed in myself, and I was passionate about what I was doing. And those are the same things I instilled in my daughter. And when you live your passion, if there's nothing you remember this, please. When you live your passion, you never work a day in your life. So the key is for you to find your passion, whatever that is. The key is, it's your passion, not your mother's passion, or your father's passion, or your friend's passion. It's that thing that energizes you, wakes you up, that makes me want to come from getting off a plane from New York yesterday and working, doing 28 interviews in one day on Friday in New York, that makes me excited about being here today. It's that passion, that fire. And then when you live and find that, that's when greatness will come. There's greatness in each and every one of you. You have to believe there's greatness inside of you. There is greatness inside of each and every one of you. I have been running around screaming in a minute. We're going to have a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, there's greatness in everybody. There's greatness in, and you know, there's greatness in your family and in your daughters. And I want to turn a little bit over to one of your passions. And this book, Destiny's Child: The Untold Story, is a book that I think many of you would immediately identify with. But this is a story of a person, who is a savvy business person, an entrepreneur, acutely, I would say, attuned to the challenges of racism, who recognizes you've got two very, very talented daughters, who have some big dreams and aspirations very early. And you decide you're going to take stock of the music industry, you're going to come to terms with it, you're going to navigate it, you're going to go back to college and learn about it, and you're going to manage, you're going to provide the support your daughters need. You're ultimately going to manage the group that becomes Destiny's Child, which is not just a music phenomenon, but also a powerful expression of what you talk about in your earlier books, about the importance of music to the world and to the African American community in this country and to your family. And can you tell us a little bit, first of all, I think everybody would love to hear a little bit about raising those two daughters. Because by the time they're 5 or 6, they're already showing.
Yeah, Beyonce was on Star Search, which is the equivalent of American Idol, when she was 9 years old. Just to give you some background. Most of the people that are successful in most things, especially in arts and entertainment and sports, start at a very, very early age. They don't wait until 20. Most of them that are extremely successful started 6, 7, 8 years old. My philosophy in parenting is, and I always say this, I just wanted my kids to find their passion. I teach a number of kids whose parents did not let them find their passion. I teach a lot of students whose parents wanted them to be doctors and lawyers and other things, and they failed at it because it wasn't their passion. And I get now to teach a lot of those students. I didn't want that to happen to my kids. So I always, they gravitated towards music. So my former wife and I, we did things like that we exposed them to. We would take them to NASA so they could understand science. We would take them to the library. We would take them to musicals and plays and cultural experience. We wanted them to gravitate towards what they love. And it was very clear that it was music. And so I used to always say, if you want to be a doctor, Beyonce, then just prepare for that, science, and go to medical school. But, as my wife say, however come, when you graduate, finished med school, Dad would have bought a hospital. That's how we think. Not that you're going to work at a hospital. We're going to buy a hospital. And that's the way that, you know, we thought. And, I always say that if your kid you have to tell them to go to practice, it's a hobby. And that's okay to have a hobby, but it's a hobby, it's not a passion. I've never ever had to tell Solange or Beyonce they have practice tomorrow. They're telling me they don't want to be late for practice.
Right. What was it like to be the manager of Destiny's Child?
A lot of work. You know, it takes a lot of work to do this right, and you know, to be part of something that becomes the #1 selling female group in the history of music. But you would have found, unfortunately, the video went out, that in my corporate years, I was the #1 sales rep in the world at Xerox, in the medical division. That's the DNA of my family, to be the very best at something. And I tell you, every day, and I've taught for 20 plus years, first day of my class is, #1, can't show up late, because in the music industry, you get fired. I'm the artist and you show up late and you're the video director and I'm waiting on you, that doesn't happen. So if we're going to study music business, we might as well learn. Second thing I say is, if you came to my class to be good, don't come back. I only teach greatness. I don't know how to teach how to be good at something. I'm unapologetic about that. Because being great is also a mental thing. It's not arrogance, it's a mental thing that you do all the things to be the best in the world. I want people that are going to do some things that move the needle in the world. Not just in Orange County, but in the world. And when you've done that before, you know you can do it. That's why I keep looking at you saying there's greatness in each and every one of you. But you have to believe it. And that's what, you know, that particular book, one of the chapters, is on another book, is learning from failure. You can't become great at something until you make mistakes. You are going to make mistakes in life. That's just part of life. The question is, do we learn from them? I certainly make mistakes all the time. But I try to learn from those, and I take that back, because I said try, and I seldom say try. I even have an exercise. Professor, can you pick up, please, that bottle of water? Please set it down. Did you try to pick it up, or did you pick it up?
I picked it up.
Because if you tell the brain try, the brain will trick you, and it won't do it. Or it'll do it not at the most efficiency. A lot of psychology is involved with being great, and how you look at life and view life and have information. That's why you come to college, is to get information so that you can make an informed decision and become a critical thinker. We have a lot of people that aren't critical thinkers, that are just told, this is the way we do it, and they never challenge them. Why do we do it then? It's just because. Y'all know some people like that, right?
Right. And I want to get into that because clearly you understand success. But before we move into that, I just want to ask you one more question about your kids. Because Beyonce has become not just successful. This is a global icon. This is somebody her name is recognized, her influence is global in the region. It's 1 out of 8 billion people who move into that position. You've seen it, you supported it. What has it done to your daughter? What has it done to Beyonce? What's she like now, where she is? Because you knew her when she was 4 or 5. This group knows her as a superstar.
Yeah. Well, supported her is one thing. As a parent, I supported her. As her manager and music executive, I created. You got to remember, Beyonce was 12 years old. She got a record deal at 15. 15-year-olds don't create their brand and their future. If anybody in here think at 15 the music industry is going to listen to you, tell us how to market you, how to spend billions, well, millions of dollars. So I just want to clarify because his story, if I don't do that, his story will line through me. And often with black executives, we get lined through. So I don't want to get just put in that I'm a parent bag. You know, I was way more than that. I created the brand. The architect of the brand, which strategically was Destiny's Child first. And then each one of the ladies did a solo project. Michelle is on Broadway right now. That was a strategy that started with Aida on Broadway. That didn't just luck it by luck. A lot of people think this stuff just happened, but there was strategy involved with all of this. Beyonce, we did 18 different brands, brand endorsements, from Pepsi to McDonald's. And no, I told McDonald's, we're not selling hamburgers and French fries. We're going to sell healthy living. And the McDonald's houses that they have for kids. So McDonald's did a tour. Mercedes, American Express, Nintendo, because I needed to get some of the male market. So I said, we need to do a video game. Nintendo. This stuff wasn't happenstance. This was a lot of work and a lot of strategy, and around the world. You know, we only have 300 plus million people, almost 8 billion people. Like, why would you focus in America only? So we put our focus around the world. On the Destiny's Child first album, they went to London alone 13 times just to promote the first album. Never been done before or since at Columbia Records. There's a lot that goes into this. So I don't want to take away from Beyonce's talent because she's exceptionally talented. I don't want to take away from her passion because she's exceptionally passionate. But it takes a lot. Her mother created her image, the whole Destiny's Child image. Her mother was a seamstress. And then House of Darion. A lot of you might be too young to know House of Darion. Anybody remember House of Darion clothing line? We started from zero and sold that for $75 million. So that's, you know, people don't know all of the things that went into, again, I own a country label, so you think Beyonce like country music? Her dad owned a country label? I don't know, I gotta think so. And her grandfather used to sing her to sleep with country music, or that her grandfather actually named her B because he was country, he couldn't pronounce Beyonce. So you say, hey B, he's rocking you to sleep because he couldn't say Beyonce. So much y'all don't know the Jedi mind trick. Y'all would never know even a fourth of what really happens. And it's these moments like now that you'll walk away knowing way more than half the people.
I mean, and the story of what happened, the strategy, the branding, the focus on image, the focus on the right name, the focus on the right people, your willingness to say, this isn't working, we're going to change right now. You capture a lot of what is key to success in another book. And this one here, The DNA of Achievers.
That's my favorite.
And I love that book. I'm just going to, because you probably haven't read it, you will, you should read it. But you talk about the importance of passion and vision. And then you talk about the importance of a work ethic and building a team, of planning, of that. And what's something I like is the talk-to-do ratio.
Right.
And then once you're up and running, you've got this thing going, you have to be willing to take risks. You have to be willing to learn from failure, because that's what happens.
I'm impressed that you read these books.
You have to. I'm not going to stop yet. I'm going to say, but something that you see in people is the willingness to give back and to think outside the box. Though that, to me, that was very compelling. And I want to ask you from the beginning, do you feel that those were qualities you had, or did you see them in the world and you said, I'm going to be like that? Or did somebody say to you, Professor, you should be more like this? How did you become that?
Yeah, I think for me, one of the key words was visionary. Seeing life differently than most people do. I'll look at this room and I'll see opportunities. And oftentimes when you're a visionary, the biggest mistake that most people ask others is, I have an idea. What do you think about this idea? See, visionaries, we don't ask you what you think of our ideas. We ask and say what we need from you. See, I'll give you an example of a lot of ladies. A visionary would never say, you know, I'm thinking about opening a hair salon. What do you think about that? A visionary would say, I'm thinking about opening a hair salon, and I need you to tell all your girlfriends to come to it. That's what a visionary would do. And this is what's going to make us different. It's that we're going to have the shortest time that you have to stay in a hair salon than any hair salon around. Which, for 18 years, we owned a hair salon in Houston. We made our first $1 million in 1984. Headliner's hair salon. And why we were successful? Your length of stay was shorter than any hair salon. And we charged 3 times because we identified our market, our client base. They were all professional women, judges, attorneys, and lawyers. And they couldn't afford to be in a hair salon 3 and 4 hours. So if I could cut that time down to an hour and a half, then they would pay 3 times as much. Oh, and by the way, it's the 80s and we have fax machines and we serve champagne and we do all the other things. So those are the things that visionaries do. And that is a very important part of our success as a family. And you see that in Solange and Beyonce being visionaries of doing things differently. I never used to listen to other people's music, so I didn't copy anybody because I didn't really listen to anybody's music.
I mean, I think if you read these books, it will make you feel like going out and doing something you believe in, something you feel passionate about, and not trying to live up to somebody else's ideas of what you ought to do, but actually going out there and doing what you can commit yourself to.
But I will say, being a visionary is a very lonely road because most people won't get you. Most people won't get you when you're a visionary. So you can't take it personally. You've got to have that tough skin and know they're not going to get this, because often we want to get that reinforcement like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Well, most people aren't going to understand that it's a great idea. So don't give up when that happens. I'm telling you right now, most people are not going to get your great idea. Because if that happened, then everybody would be doing it. Right? That's what's going to make you stand out, what differentiates you.
And I mean, a lot of this is about your vision and passion for it and what you need to do to make that real. And the first time we talked, you know, that sort of vision and passion comes out very powerfully when we talk. But I thought that one of the things that impressed me was another aspect of being successful is giving back. It's that commitment to giving back. These books are a form of giving back. But a whole lot of what you do now, what you've always done, is giving back. Why is that critical? Why is that so important?
Yeah, it's just gratitude for me. for me, it's just gratitude. You know, I grew up again on a dirt road with an outhouse. Now I live in 2 cities, and you know, I'm just grateful of having 2 amazing daughters. Now my grandson Jules has gone from 0 to top 10 male model in the world in less than a year. In less than a year, Jules have done that. Blue Ivy building her own brand at 13. You know, I'm very grateful from growing up on a dirt road and using an outhouse. That for me brings a lot of gratitude. And I remember back in the day, I don't do it now, but I used to ride around with like $20 bills because there was a lot of homeless people in Houston. For me, and again, I wouldn't do it today, but back then, I would get out of the car, and the most important thing to me was not giving you the money. The most important thing for me was looking you in the eye and telling you I love you and giving you a hug. That meant way more to a homeless person than giving them $20. That you looked them in the eye and said, I love you. And those things are important. That's the gratitude.
Those things
It didn't have to be me. It could have been somebody else. So I'm grateful for that.
And so now you've lived this incredibly full life, a really remarkable life. And you've shared it with everybody, and that's fantastic. And in the spirit of sort of here, now you've got people young starting off their lives, and they want to be successful. Some of them want to, see.
By the way, what have question and answers?
Yeah, this will be the last question in terms of that. But I was just wondering if you had any advice for people here who want to, who want to go out there and navigate this pretty complicated world where we're getting lots of bad news all the time about it's sort of some people find it overwhelming and causes a lot of anxiety.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power. I still learn. I love to learn. We always say I have another professor in my class, Professor Google. And if I don't know something, we're going to Google. Now we can even do it better with AI. You got to remember, I grew up, there was no cell phones. There were no computers. We had to go to the library. My parents had encyclopedias. That was a big deal. You had encyclopedias. So now you have access to technology that we didn't have. There's no excuse. Knowledge is power. Find the information. Get the information. I applaud you. Could be doing something else right now, but you chose to be here. Thank you for that. Applaud yourself for being here.
This is a pretty rare opportunity, and I wonder, be bold, walk down to the mic, and
I want to do one thing before. I'm spontaneous. By any chance, behind this stage, we have a box? Any chance we have a box back there anywhere?
Empty box.
Just an empty box. You'll find one. And while he's doing that, can I get one volunteer? This young man can you come up?
all right, volunteer.
Come up on stage, please. What's your name? Antonio. Okay. Did we find that box? We finding something like a box, something that looks like a box, something we can make a box.
It's got to be something there.
As long as we got something. Where are you from?
I'm from the Bay Area, Fairfield, California, little outskirts of the Bay.
And what's your major?
I'm a music major, voice major here.
Okay. And what's your passion in life?
My passion is singing and dancing. Singing, dancing, and just moving around on the stage.
What type of music?
Pop music, R&B, and reggaeton.
So you want to get a record deal one day?
One day.
Okay, we're gonna make it. Is that the biggest box we can find? You got a second one? Come on, backstage crew. Give it up for the backstage. Yeah. a psychological game with you. Pick a number between 1 and 4 and don't tell me. Okay? See the number? I want you to answer 9 questions. There we go. What's 0 plus 9?
You would answer
0 plus 9.
9.
1 plus 8. 2 plus 7. 3 plus 6. 4 plus 5. 5 plus 4. 6 plus 3. 7 plus 2. 8 plus 1. 9 plus 0. Think of the very first decimal and don't tell me. I want you to literally see the number between 1 and 4 and see the vegetable. You see it? I want you to tell Dr. Matthews in his ear what the number is and what's the vegetable. The number was 3.
Number was, am I supposed to share it? 3 is right.
3.
You got the numbers.
And the vegetable was carrot.
It was close.
Broccoli?
Yeah.
Life is that. You read somebody, you can look at them at a certain point in your life. You can just look at somebody. So I want you, we're going to make this fun, to pick somebody in this room, because what I want you to do first is to put, I'm going to hold your hand, put 1 foot in that box.
Okay. Right now?
Right now.
That's like 13.
Probably put the other foot in there. Yeah, you can do it. All right. I'm going to hold you. Now I want you to pick anybody in this audience to get in this box.
Yeah. I saw the hand going.
And what's your name?
John.
John?
John, very nice to meet you.
How you doing? Is it John?
John New.
John New.
Yes, sir.
I want to say your name. So John New, will you please get in the box? I'm going to hold you in. We don't want any. Yeah, that's all right. So this is life right here. So I want the both of you to try to move around in this box. I'm going to hold you. I already know the answer. So what are you hitting? What are you hitting as you move around in this box? You can be still. What were you hitting? You were hitting walls. So this exercise is thinking outside of the box. Why did you pick him?
I don't know. Well, the hand just went up first, and I was like, all right, let's go.
So this is life. We pick people just like ourselves to be in our box. If you're a hater, guess who you're going to pick to be in your box? Another hater. Seriously, this is life. We've been conditioned, and that's why I named it Thinking Outside of the Box, because most of us are box-in thinkers. And what's a box-in thinker? We've been conditioned why we can't do something. We can't do it because we're poor. We can't do it because we're black. We can't do it because we're a woman. We can't do it because we're LGBTQ community. All of these reasons why we can't do it. Since kids, we've been conditioned. You will never be able to do that. You will never be able to do that. And so all we do is get inside of this box and we hit walls all day long with others just like us. Box-in thinkers. Most of the room. Box-in thinkers. So I want you to slowly step out of this box. And I want you to walk around the box. Around the box. And stop, please. Now you haven't experienced any walls. There's no walls when you think outside of the box. When you ask why. Why do we do it this way? We go through our lives letting people tell us, you do it that way. You do it this way. And you never question, why do we do it this way? So from today, I love doing this exercise so you can see 3 and broccoli. So you can see this exercise of how we're conditioned to think inside, box and think. Thank you for that. Get that out of the way.
Get that out of the way. And if you have a question, please come down. We have 2 mics in front. And Professor,
and this is the most important part.
It is.
And I ask everyone, please stay to the end of this. We'll be here another 15 minutes. But this is really an important, what you have to say or questions you have, critically important.
Come on down. There are a couple of people.
Can we start a line?
You can line up right here. And we'll
Yeah.
get a couple of these questions quick, please.
So I just had a quick question about parenting. In American Requiem, the first track off of Cowboy Carter, she talks about being the grandbaby of a moonshine man. On that same project, she has a song called Daughter, where she discusses closely the relationship between a father and a daughter. Talked about Sir Davis. What is your relationship to these? Do you know about these things before they happen? Do you have influence in these when you see kind of her telling the narrative of your story and also your culture that has become hers as well? How do you feel about that, or what's your relationship to those?
My mom was from Louisiana, my daddy from Alabama.
Yes.
Okay. On her first album, Dangerously in Love, there's a song called Daddy.
Yes.
That I want to marry someone just like my daddy. His name is Jay-Z.
Yeah.
Did I get you on that one?
Yeah.
That's a good question. No, but I mean, songwriting, right, is about life experiences. And some of the best songs are when you're authentic and you just write about life for the same reason that we wrote Survivor by Destiny's Child. You look on the credits, I'm grateful again to have co-written a #1 song. I've actually co-written 2 #1 songs. And that came about because 2 radio DJs in Houston, we were listening to the radio, they were laughing because I had to make changes in the group. And then the TV show Survivor was on. And so we kind of looked at each other and said, that's a great idea. I think we probably made 25 million on somebody being stupid. They thought they were being smart. We made 25 million off them being stupid. That's a pretty good thing. But songwriting is what we're talking about. Being authentic. Some days it's just how you feel. A song can take you back. We don't have great songs like we used to. So, are you a songwriter?
I'm not.
But a good question. Thank you for that.
Again, I'm back. Thank you again for being here. I just wanted to thank you and thank you for the honor of sharing your time and your experience with us. And I wanted to ask you about building the family dynasty and innovation. How were you able to innovate and notice the things that were going on and innovate and continue album after album, era through era, from the group to the solo career, all of that involved? And then also, if you could speak to navigating the industry. I'm not 100% sure of your background prior to you entering the music industry, but navigating those record deals and some of those business meetings, if you could speak to
I'll
that.
start backwards, okay? So my background is 20 years in corporate America and sales and marketing. Basically working with 3 companies. As a neurosurgical specialist, being the first black to sell MRI and CT scanners in America and selling zero radiography, which is a leading modality for breast cancer. I came from a technical sales and marketing background. And so that influenced me with everything I do, is what I learned in marketing from Xerox, how to build a brand development. That's the reason why you spend more money for a pair of Nikes than you would for a pair of shoes maybe at Walmart. Like that's the reason why you go to Target versus Walmart. Brand development is everything, and what we do. That's why you're wearing a certain garment right now, a pair of shoes. So I understand brand development, how important that is. The power of a great song can never be underestimated. There's a number of artists that aren't great singers, but they've had great songs. But if you have both, and also learning the power of entertaining versus singing. I can go to any church in Alabama, a Baptist church on a Sunday, and find somebody that can sing, sing, sing. We're not in the singing business. I care less how well you sing. I want to know how well you entertain. We're in the entertainment business. And that's on the real for those of you that want to enter into this business. Two really different things, singing and entertaining. What was the first part of your question?
I was just asking about the innovation, how you were able to kind of navigate innovating from BC, BC3, all the different iterations, and then into Dangerously in Love and all the way through.
So the secret of Destiny's Child, again, how many people in here have heard Destiny's Child song? Raise your hands. Oh, so you'll get this. 2 words. Female empowerment. That was our whole thing. Female empowerment. If you go back and listen to and think of those name of those songs, there was a strategy. We didn't just go in the studio and like most people. It's female empowerment. Independent women. Girls, girls, girls. This is female empowerment song. So that was it. And then, Kelly had her sound, which was, Kelly had she did follow the plan. She was supposed to be over in Europe, being the next Tina Turner and Sade. But she let people get in her ear, and she came to America. An R&B, she's a pop artist, and had the top pop song over in Europe and over in Australia. Michelle followed the plan. She loved gospel music. She had 5 #1 gospel albums in Broadway. Beyonce followed the plan. So it was all strategic plan. And behind some of those songs is an amazing songwriter named Solange. So that was the plan.
Thank you. So just that through line of just having a steady path, a steady vision or theme of what we're talking about, and then just naturally evolving as you go on.
And being authentic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
So I just have a question about fear. So what would you have to say about how fear affects the human mind and how it limits people in pursuing their own personal legend and how to overcome that?
Man, that is such a great question. Thank you for asking that. Because fear, most of us fear success. Often it's said fear of failure, but it's really fear of success that we fear. We fear that if we're successful, then we're now out front and center. We now have to really know our stuff. So it's a fear of success for me. And understanding that you only overcome fear. For me, one of the best books I've ever read was Outliers. Anyone ever read the book Outliers? Raise your hand. Outliers talk about to become great is 10,000 hours you have to do something, right? 10,000. I have now spoken 10,000 hours. That's why I can feel so comfortable and spontaneously in a video can mess up. I don't have fear about that, right? whatever it is you fear, first admit it. Admit, that frightens me. I'm frightened to get on the stage. I'm frightened to go up to a stranger and talk because I'm shy. I'm frightened. So you do just the opposite. You force yourself to do it. First you admit it, and then you force yourself to overcome it. It's okay to have fear. Fear is a good thing as far as I'm concerned. It's a motivator. That's how I look at it. Everybody has their own perspective. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm just going to take this off. Yeah, because it's easier. I don't want to try and figure that out right now. But hello. First of all, thank you so much for coming and joining us today in our class. It was super awesome getting to hear you speak. You have such a wise energy to you, and you have taught us so much in this little amount of time. I kind of want to explore the concept of when you did the box exercise, speaking about how sometimes in life you choose these certain people to be around in your box, but you're caught up by the walls that kind of society puts up around you, and they try to force you to be contained inside of this box. I am curious to see if you have any more advice as to how to navigate your path once you try to exit that space.
First of all, remember that exercise about try?
Right.
You said it 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Psychologically, try. We don't want to try, we want to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll let you finish the end. So how do I navigate?
How do you navigate trying to define yourself
You
as...
said try again.
I said it again and again. I missed your
You see how it can take over a person?
Right.
Psychologically?
Right.
One word can really change how we look and view the world.
Mm-hmm.
And we're conditioned to say try something versus let's do something. It's those little small psychological things that matter a lot that we just take for granted in a given day. So let's try. I caught myself. So let's do that one more time.
I think just defining yourself out in the world where you're being viewed by so many other people, how do you overcome the boundaries that society tries to place over us?
That was good. That was really good. How we overcome those boundaries. I think it's what I said similar. Don't place those boundaries on yourself. I mean, think of sports. Can you imagine the boundaries? Look at today's quarterback, right? Yesterday's quarterback is, you have to have this quarterback IQ. So a lot of black quarterbacks, when they played in high school or college, couldn't play professionally because it was thought we didn't have the IQ to do it. But now, that boundary doesn't exist. Now we want a quarterback like them black kids that can run and throw and all of that, right? Because some quarterback like Warren Moon and others said, I'm not going to put these boundaries, and I'm going to show you. That's the talk to do ratio. I'm not just going to talk about how I can do this. I'm going to show you how I can do it at a very, very high level. Talk to do. So sometimes you have to just show people.
Okay. Tell people wait and see.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. I love your courage for coming up.
I'll move to the lower one. Hi, I'm Sage. So, I'm a visionary among non-visionaries. Is a visionary somewhat like something you can build within somebody or help them recognize it? If so, how?
The question was, how can you recognize a visionary?
No,
Because it's kind of hard hearing you.
sorry.
Did you hear the question?
How do you nurture somebody to become a visionary? How do you
Yeah.
get somebody?
Is that the question? How do you?
Yeah. Or so how do you nurture someone to become a visionary, or how do you guide them to recognize that they are a visionary?
So profound, because on social media today, what I'm posting is one of my speeches, one of my talks. And I talk about when I was at Xerox Corporation, there's this position that came up in the medical division. And I asked the branch manager, could I interview for it? And he kind of laughed and he said, you know, Knowles, you're not going to get the job, but it'd be a great experience for you. But what he didn't know is I went to the library for a month, to learn all I could about breast cancer. And by the way, I'm a cancer survivor. This is 5 years, 6 months. And so I ended up getting the job. But what I'm posting today is that I asked him to mentor me. And sometimes that's what you need, is a mentor. Someone that will help you along the way and share their experiences. And often we think it's difficult to get a mentor. The hard part is just asking, just humbly asking someone, would you please mentor me? I want to be the very best at this. That would be my suggestion to you. Find a mentor. Do you have one?
I do.
She does.
Good. Yeah, please, and then I'd like to say one last comment at the end.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right.
So 2 quick questions.
Please stay for 5 more minutes.
Hi, thank you for being here. Just a quick question. You've talked about songwriting, but also you've clearly written multiple books. Kind of what's the process like? Is there one you prefer? I assume there are many differences, but also similarities.
Songwriting versus writing a book? What do you think about that? All creative is all in how you process. I always like to, in a song, like I'm a melody, is 3 parts of the song, right? You know,
Yeah.
I'm more of the melody part of it, more so than the lyricist or doing the track. But most people forget when you hum "Old MacDonald Had a Farm" for a second. Just hum it. Get closer to the mic so we... Okay? What most people don't realize is the importance of a melody. You didn't say a lyric, and you didn't say have a track of music to go with it, but we all knew what he was singing because the melody is so strong. So for me, I focus on what I think I'm good at, and I also know what I'm not good at, and I then try to build a team of people around me that are better at that can make the whole really good. So on the music side, that's what I focus on, the melody. On the book side, it's just I've been a writer because I think it goes back to going to a Catholic school.
Yeah.
In elementary school, and we had to write so much. I mean, writing was a thing. We got graded for writing and composition and English, and I think that's part of it. And I know how to story tell, and I've become a good storyteller because I keep doing it. And now I have pieces of paper. I write on the back of envelopes. I write on the back of bills. I write on the back of all kind of stuff. My wife is always laughing because I'm writing on the back of stuff. And I just write a lot. I just ideas constantly. And I might just think of something and I'll write it down. And then my madness, I put it all together. And then for some reason I could think of these kind of crazy catchphrase words, like talk to do ratio, you know, just out of nowhere. I was like sitting in a meeting and everybody was just talking. And I was like, there's never follow-up after these meetings. So I came up with talk to do ratio, you know? So that's how I do it for me. Everybody's different.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So my quick question, you were talking about passion, how you gave opportunities to your daughters to explore passion. What would be your advice to parents that kind of already have what they want their child to do and navigate in life? And what would be your advice to those kind of children, especially since we tend to see our parents as our most wise and knowledgeable parents?
Well, you asked a question, and my answer is not going to be one well received by the world, but I always give my perspective, right? I think every individual child is different. I never wanted my kids to do something because I told them this is what you're going to be in life. I just personally don't believe in that. I believe in my kids finding themselves, finding that thing, that one thing that they love, and then I'll support them. But me personally, I teach students who parents told them you will be an attorney. And that's not what they wanted to be. They wanted to be in music. But some parents think there's no money in music, it's not a real career path, and so they tell the kids, you're not going to be in music. I would never do that to my kids and tell them what they're not going to be. I want them to find themselves, and I want them to live joy and happiness because they found their passion. And sometimes in music, especially, it takes 5 to 6 years before you make money. But when you're living your passion, that's what I said. You never work a day in your life because it's not just about money then. It's about joy and happiness and fulfillment. So I can't parent you. Your parents have their perspective, and I respect that. I'm giving you my perspective as a parent.
Thank you.
And then please stay, we'll take a photograph together.
But I'll wrap it. I like to stand up. I'll go.
Wrap it up.
Beyonce bought me these pair of shoes. I love them. Yeah, this is what I love. I love this part of it. Just kind of looking you in your eyes and letting the room be quiet and still. Something about when the room is quiet. Feel that energy, how it changed? Just letting the room be still and quiet. So I'm a storyteller, so I'm going to tell one quick last story. So here I am, LAX airport. Used to have this thing called a CD. Y'all might remember that. It's like a frisbee, CD. It was the height, believe it or not, you used to go to the airport and go to the gate, and when the people got off the plane, you could greet them. I mean, the world changed. So it used to be, you know, when celebrities got off the plane, fans were waiting, and here I am. I'm not a celebrity, but you know, my name had gotten out, and a lot of people wanted record deals, and I own a record label. And so it wouldn't be uncommon that I get a lot of business cards and CDs walking out of the airport. So imagine I'm going down the escalator, LAX, and at the bottom of the escalator is a nun from Mexico. And she has a jar that says, please give to the missionary. I'm not going to go on and say how the word missionary was spelled, but that's not the story. The story is I gave. It goes to giving. And she gave me a business card that I put in my pair of jeans, and the next pair of jeans, I had 7 or 8 cards. I put it those in the next pair, and now I got 15, and I finally got to the car wash one day, and the car wash, I was like, I'm gonna clean out all my cards in my pocket. So this is what I want to leave you with. What was written on the back of that card? I have often thought of what was written on the back of that card. It was, pray not for a life free from trouble. Think about it. We've been conditioned to do just the opposite. This is saying, pray not for a life free from trouble. Pray for triumph over trouble. Triumph over trouble. For what you and I call adversity. The universe, Allah, God, whatever name you use. For what you and I call adversity, God calls opportunity. See, we have to change how we look at life. Bad stuff is going to happen. But inside of that are opportunities. So when bad stuff happens to me, I think of what's the opportunity. When I was diagnosed with cancer, I was like, what's the opportunity? The opportunity is I can share my experience, that possibly I can save lives with my experience. Pray not for a life free from trouble. Stop that. Pray for the triumph. Pray for the triumph. And know that there's opportunity inside of adversity. And I always end, I love you, and ain't nothing you can do about it. Peace out.